Morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain? There's no way you can complain today. Today is one of the greatest days in the history of planet Earth. Earth, the whole thing. It's a great day. Today might even be one of the best breakups ever. It's going to be a little short, still a little bit under the weather, and I've just taken a dose of ivermectin, which means my stomach is a little unsettled, but we're fine. We're not coughing crazy, and we had the typical night chills that you get from the old COVID. You know, I was all sweaty. I don't know if all of you get it that way, but I know my COVID usually shows signs of being broken once I get a night sweat on. And I had that last night, so it looks like we're getting a milder version than the ones I've previously had. My whole family has had it. So far, it was mild in every case, so we're going to be okay. We got the ivermectin. I know we had one of the gang suggest prednisone, I guess. Yeah, it makes me too, or at least I've never taken it, but my impression is it's highly addictive. So I try to stay away from addictive pharmaceuticals. Ivermectin, not the case. It's so disgusting. You'll only take it once. Christine, it looks like YouTube is in the house. Nice to see you, Christine. Good morning. It's Courtney's Fellowship of Oddballs. I'm glad you made it. I'm glad you made it. Bon matin à tous, Where Do I Sats? Good morning, everyone. I'm glad you're here, Where Do I Sats? I hope your summer's going well out in the country. Johnny Midas, hope you're feeling better, brother. Yeah, as I said, I had a great sleep last night, so that's good news. Bitcoin Deb, good morning. Indeed, good morning and good day, Zappa BTC. To you too, Zappa BTC. John Smith, good morning. Hope you're doing well, John. Hope you're doing well. So it looks like we got enough people in the house. Playing with Bitcoin continues. Indeed. Indeed. We got lots of fun Moscow time today. And I have a new Moscow time logo you'll see in a second. Made by the same folks who make these beautiful t-shirts. That is the Satoshi House Auctions. And I received an excellent new logo yesterday. Sanding Plane, good morning. Good morning. Hope you're doing well. Ladies into house. No kidding, huh? It's mostly ladies today. Dr. Mark Pugner. Good morning, Dr. Mark. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well. Dale from Regina. I hope you're doing well, Dale. Hope Regina's beautiful today. Hope it's not too hot in Regina. You never know. And how are those Rough Riders doing? I haven't seen much CFL stuff this year, but I am an Alouettes fan. So good morning, Nolan and gang. Any of you out there like the Canadian Football League? One of my favorite Seinfeld jokes of all time was when they explained that Kramer only watches Canadian football, and they tried to get Kramer to go watch. He's like, Jerry dismisses, like, he only watches Canadian football. One of the best jokes out there on Seinfeld. I really appreciated that. For all you Americans who don't know how Canadian football works, it's a great game, actually. And just funny that there is a separate version of football out in the world with a really fun take on the rules. So only get 3 downs, and so it's not 4 downs, you get 3 downs. There is a yard at scrimmage, so they have to separate the offensive line and the defensive line. So there's a bit of space between them, and then all receivers can be in motion. So if the offensive line is about to hike the ball, you can put your receivers way back and they can be at full speed as they hit the line and come across. So it's a major sort of advantage. So it's just a much more offensive game. And then there's timeouts for every play after the 2-minute warning. So no matter what you do, you don't have to coach as much with the timeouts and the incomplete passes. You don't have to think too much about running and all that. Everyone can just run. It's pretty good. So it's a fun game. And I think you like it. It's second in the West, Dale says. Yeah, so Dale comes from kind of like the version of the Green Bay Packers in a way. The uniforms are different. Those are the Edmonton uniforms. They look almost exactly like the Green Bay Packers. They used to be called the Eskimos, but it was racist. So they're not the Eskimos anymore. I don't even know what they are. I haven't followed it since that changed. But the Montreal is the defending champions, and they told the rest of Canada when they won this, you keep your English. We were big fans. Big fans. We're going to talk about Thierry Breton. But first, indeed, Muslim Bitcoiner has reminded us, where is the sun? Was there ever an amazing sunrise this morning? It was special. I'm going to try and point out to you if you can even see the sun. So first of all, I had a weird experience because right now this is the time at which we start losing sun very quickly. So I think we're losing about 2 or 3 minutes a day, or it's starting now where we're going to start going off a cliff here. And so the sun also moves this way, right? This is east to south. So as we change seasons, the longer days the sun comes up here in July, and every day it's sort of gone, a little bit. Those are the angles. Eventually it'll come out over here or something in the winter. But right now, today, I couldn't see it come up. It just was not obvious because it was hidden behind this tower. And then you can kind of see it there. It came up this little pink color. So it was a really neat one. I literally was like, where's the sun? What's going on? I was checking it out. I was like, how is this not happening? Because I like to wait for the sun out there. But there you go. And it was, I guess there's some kind of, there must be some kind of forest fire or something, because the sun was super red for a while, which means there's something in the sky and it's not clouds. But you can kind of see it come over there. So it literally was like hidden from me for 2 minutes, and I just couldn't believe it was behind that thing. So that must have happened over the past couple of days where it shifted just enough. So there you go. Oh, and by the way, there might be, I looked a little bit last night, but it looks like there are some northern lights going on right now. I might drive out to Vermont and spend the night there just to see them tonight. We'll see. Not sure if I'm going to do that, but it could be in the cards. Riders play Montreal Friday. Well, there you go. There you go. Thanks. P-Man, sup, fine day to be with the breakup gang. Indeed it is, P-Man. Thanks for saying that. All right. Let's get into our Moscow time. Oh, I forgot to do the whole sunrise thing. 1 second. The sun's up. There it is. Weird sun. I told you all about it. And Bitcoin's running. Let's have a coffee and talk about what's new. All right. So there's our new Moscow time logo. Now, if you guys don't know the history of Moscow time, this is, sort of to make you think of the block clock, because that's where Moscow time actually comes from, right? If you remember when they hauled Jack Dorsey's ass into Congress over Zoom because it was COVID time, he did and it was about the 2020 election. So like, why was there so much misinformation, and why didn't you kick Trump off sooner, and blah, 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 blah. And so when he did his interview with Congress, he had a block clock because he did it from his house. Of course, he had a block clock. And the fake news journalists had to hallucinate that the block clock, because of whatever it was, the block height at the time, was actually the time in Moscow. So he hallucinated that Jack Dorsey was trying to signal Vladimir Putin using a block clock about the time it was in Moscow. So, and he had really talked himself into it. Once you see one of these journalists hyperventilate, we're going to be talking about all kinds of hyperventilating, broken brain, idiotic, low IQ journalists today. The absolute sludgiest people of the sludge people. Can't wait for them to eat crickets cooked in seed oils. They literally just worked themselves up into a tizzy and believed 100% that the block clock was Moscow time to signal Putin, I'm here to give you a massage or something later. I'm still on your team. So that's where it comes from. All right. That's where block clock comes. That's where Moscow time comes from. And here is our block clock Moscow time logo. And maybe I'll put this at some of our Moscow time cut videos and things like that. So there you go. Now you know it. Our first Moscow time of the story. Where is it hot? What's the weather like? The New York Times reminding us here that how close are the planet's climate tipping points? Tipping points. Earth's warming. It's the whole planet now, guys. It's everywhere, okay? Earth's warming could trigger sweeping changes in the natural world that would be hard, if not impossible, to reverse. We're all gonna die. Now, you know why they talk about tipping points, right? It's because all of their climate models didn't work. So now they got to say, oh, it's any day, even though we predicted 10 years ago and 20 years ago and 30 years ago that you'd be swimming with dolphins all the way into the inner Georgia. All the coast is going to be gone. There's going to be no more New York City. The only way you're going to live in New York City is the top of the skyscrapers, because the rest of the city at street level is going to be underwater, right? Because they get these things wrong every single time, they have to sort of change the parameters, right? So now it's tipping points again. We've been at a tipping point, according to the New York Times. It's been a tipping point for like 40 years. So keep it up, tipping points. We love it. We love the tipping points. Oh, this one's good. DNA tests. Haven't we just heard that DNA tests at the Olympics don't work to tell if you're a boy or a girl? Didn't we hear all about that? That you can't do it with DNA tests? Didn't we hear all about how DNA tests have nothing to do with XY and XX? And again, Don't forget, I am as pro-trans, non-binary a person you're going to find. That Algerian boxer was my favorite Olympian by a mile. By a mile, okay? Now, what I love is that suddenly in the news, though, right, DNA tests can prove you're non-binary. It's perfect. So we know for sure we did a DNA test on this warrior. Clearly non-binary. Clearly non-binary. We love it. Clearly non-binary. All right, what do we got next? These are the our new section that we've been talking about for a few days in Moscow time. This is the Kamala Biden boosterism, right? So where's the boosterism? So here's what we know about Joe Biden, what Joe Biden can't bring himself to say. His verbal stumbles have voters, hold on, I gotta get my version, have voters worried about his mental fitness. Maybe they'd be more understanding if they knew he's still fighting a stutter. We just have to sympathize with him. He's such a nice guy, everyone. Even though he called half the country Nazis, even though he went with the Fine People hoax again 2 days ago and said that the Ku Klux Klan didn't mind taking off their masks, he's a fine guy. He's just out there. He just needs some sympathy. He's fighting a stutter. They go further. It's not just his stutter, we find out in this Atlantic article. Kamala's got troubles too. What is it? In April 2022, Harris was the guest for a dinner at DC news mogul David Bradley's home, a salon-style event Bradley hosts with Washington journalists and newsmakers. Harris's anxiety about the dinner was such that her staff held a mock dinner beforehand, with staffers playing participants, according to 2 people familiar with the event. Harris aides even consider including wine in the mock prep so Harris could practice with a glass or 2. They ultimately decided against it. She's so good. She's so good. Oh, this one's good too. Okay, so it's not just that Joe Biden has a stutter and she's got some social anxiety, right? It's not just that. She also promises everyone, don't worry, she promises, according to Politico this morning, she promises she's going to get tough on the border security. She promises. It's okay. It's okay. She promised. She promised. I mean, it's as good as gold. She promised. People say, oh, you're the vice president. You're the president now. Why don't you do it now? Come on. She promised. It's the same thing. Don't worry about it. All right? Don't worry about it. This one's good, too. This is the Tim Walz, right? Tim Walz says his masculinity, everyone, is terrifying Republicans. I'm not really a Republican. I'm a Bitcoiner, right? But I'm also terrified. I'm like, oh, my God, he's so masculine. What am I going to do? I'm terrified. Kamala Harris's running mate has traditional manly man traits, they say. He's also not frightened of women. Who isn't frightened of women? What's going on? He must be. Oh, he's not afraid of black people either. And he's not terrified of the future. He's so good. He's so strong. Jeez, Bloomberg had this. Thanks, Bloomberg. You guys are great. Just really, really good news. This one's fun too. So these are all the Trump things that they had yesterday. So this first one was CBS. This is the tax on tips contrast, right? This is a lot of fun. So when it's Trump suggesting tax on tips, no tax on tips, CBS News says former President Donald Trump's vow to stop taxing tips would cost the federal government up to $250 billion over 10 years, according to nonpartisan watchdog group. Fuck, that's a lot of money. Those servers should be contributing that $250 billion to America, not themselves. Come on, it's going to cost us so much, fucking losers. But they changed their mind over at CBS because now it's Kamala's idea. Vice President Kamala Harris is rolling out a new policy position saying she'll fight to end taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers. There you go. It's all fun. Now, they're also telling us in Axios that inside Trump's slump, he's slumping, they say, right? Advisors plead with him. They've been pleading with him to adopt new hard-hitting, focused stump speech to define VP Harris as liberal, weak, and etc. Praying he'll stop the recidivist improvisation. That's what I've been saying. I'm so keen on having a Bitcoiner in the White House, but I give it up because he's doing his recidivist stuff, right? I mean, you're out there doing recidivist improvisation. Meanwhile, you could be talking about Bitcoin, So I'm with him there. I say the recidivist piece is just too much. It's just too much, right? So we can't have any more recidivism, right? It's so dangerous. It's so dangerous. There we go. Now these are my favorite, right? So we had the Elon Trump interview last night. And there was a little reaction, okay? The sludge people didn't handle it very well, okay? The sludge people having a lot of trouble with reality this morning. Let's see what kind of trouble they're having. Look at her face. Look at her face. Look at her. And then it says here, Elon Musk will let Donald Trump speak of all the falsehoods and misinformation that he wants. I mean, he's not a journalist. He's not even a journalist. What a fucking idiot. He's not a journalist. Elon Musk is not a journalist. He doesn't have a right to ask questions. He's not a fucking journalist. We're so smart. And he's not. Okay? He's not smart. I'm smart. I'm a journalist. Does he want to be fact-checking all the information? Right? I mean, nobody fact-checked Biden when he said the Ku Klux Klan came out, but god damn it, we need someone to fact-check President Trump. Look at her face. She doesn't even know it's going to get worse. Look at her face. It's going to be like this forever. Oh my God, I'm so outraged, right? We got more reactions. These are all the fake news articles today. What do they say? What does the fake news say today? They're saying Trump rambles, slurs his way through Elon Musk's interview. It was an unmitigated disaster. That's what they say in USA Today. Reuters, rambling Trump-Musk interview marred by tech issues, they say. That's because there was about a half an hour delay for the show to start because they were getting a DDoS attack, which we all experienced. If you tried to watch it, you couldn't enter the room, blah, 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 right? After a glitchy start, Los Angeles Times says Trump encounters a sympathetic interviewer in Elon Musk. MSNBC says, I can't read that one very well. Variety says, after a 40-minute delay, Elon Musk and Donald Trump hold marathon bull session on X. Wired, Donald Trump and Elon Musk's X conversation took forever to start, then never ended. Oh, they're so boring. It's so boring to listen to the richest man in the world and the most powerful persuader in the world talk about the future. It's so boring. Stupid. What else did they say? We got the New York Times. Trump regales Elon Musk with familiar falsehoods, right? Fact-checking Donald Trump's claims about immigration, Vice President Harris, President Biden, and more. Here we go. CNN. Musk tries to help Trump halt the Harris surge. The surge is here. Politico. Musk might be the only person Trump listens to on climate, right? And this one's great too. The Atlantic. Elon Musk throws a Trump rally. Trump returns to X with technical delicious softball questions from Musk. That's from the Washington Post. So these are pretty good. They're pretty good, right? We got a couple more. It's not all of them. We get the Guardian. This is my absolute favorite one because we heard that a bunch. The rambling, right? The Associated Press did a rambling one. Reuters did a rambling. The rambling, okay? So the Guardian also says rambling. And it's like a 15-minute article to read. Obviously, I didn't read it. But the best part is at the end of it, right? At the end, okay, so they go on about this thing, and at the end, they beg for money. We're the journalists. Come on, we're the most important thing, but we have no money. We're poor. Why are we? You should listen to us even though we're poor. You should always listen to poor people. Where's the best advice you can get? Poor journalists that are absolutely economically illiterate. You have to listen to them. They're afraid of everything. They're afraid of the future, but they need money. They need money. Look who they're up against. Look at the up against, guys. Okay, give me money. This is what we're up against. Please. And the rambling thing, they don't even. So try to read. I mean, I read like the first paragraph. They didn't get into any of his talking points. They just rambled on. It was the most rambly thing I've ever read in my life. I couldn't get to it. So at the end, it was, this is what we're up against. Please, sir. I need money for my journalism. I need to do journalism with money, and I need the money. Give me the money, and I do the journalism. Okay, I do the journalism. I talk about the rambling. If you give me the money, we do it. So that's what we got. That's our Moscow time. A lot of fake news today. Pretty fun. Why is that there already? None of that makes sense. What the fuck just happened? Well, I don't know. That's screwed up. That's okay. All right. So there should have been a few more files in there. Let me just see what the fuck happened. God damn it. Oh, well. That's how we're going to have to do it today. I thought I had a few more images in there, but that's okay. That's okay. I'll go back to our This guy for now. I'll just bring it back later. Okay, so the interview last night obviously was amazing. It had nothing to do with the, rambling. There was no rambling. James Woods had a really good impression. He said, listening to two pragmatic visionaries chat about the future of the nation devoid of Democrat Party shenanigans is so inspiring. I swear Trump and Musk could clean up the Harris-Biden fiasco in a day. We also find out that it's over 1 billion views. There's over 1 billion. And what I was talking about yesterday about the end of mainstream media being apparent, this might be it, right? In the sense that there's nothing they could do about this. They sound so retarded trying to explain what happened last night, rambling. I mean, they sound absolutely, it would only make sense to the sludgiest, stupidest, out of touch, insular people in the world. Anyone else who's trying to think about what's going on, the contrast today is just so obvious. The way they reacted to this, the way they've tried to talk about it is perfect, right? The best reaction, however, which we all know, the best reaction was Thierry Breton, right? We love the British Thierry Breton. He's just a despicable person, isn't he? With his and I'm telling you, he's going to transition. I think he is a very large candidate after all of this to transition. Not there's anything wrong with that. I'm just making a prediction about what he's got left to look forward to in life after all this ends. So he came out yesterday and wrote this big long letter threatening Elon Musk with the interview for Trump last night, right? So this is how you can tell. The fake news tried to react to it, and the European government tried to react to it. In that sense, you can see just how combined and complicit they are together. They're one and the same. The government and the fake news are a parasitic, symbiotic relationship that goes back a long time now and has nothing to do with speaking truth to power. It's in fact the opposite, right? It's all about maintaining hegemony, maintaining power, maintaining the veil of control that is around us. And when you see Thierry Breton be as limp dick impotent, I mean, that's what I see. I see a bunch of impotent people. I mean, could you imagine Thierry Breton getting a boner? Could you imagine that? I mean, I don't want to ruin your morning, but look at that person. Look at him try and be a man. What would you think that would look like? Maybe he's a pervert and has some kind of sexual prowess. I don't want to paint too gross of a picture here early in the morning, but this guy ain't going anywhere, right? So he's out there trying to explain that you can't listen to a conversation between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And he warned everyone, with greater audience comes greater responsibility, right? As there is a risk of amplification of potentially harmful content on the European Union in connection with events with a major audience around the world. I sent this letter to Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk. He says, "Dear Mr. Musk, I am writing you in the context of recent events in the UK and in relation to the planned broadcast on your platform of X," right? And he goes on that people can't handle the truth, right? So now you get all kinds of hilarious reactions to that. Like you get one of my favorite ones. We shouldn't have even fucking shared the internet with these Euro trash motherfuckers in the first place. And we shouldn't have. Why did we do that? Why did we even give these people the internet? Like, what the fuck? They're too stupid. They're too dumb. What's the point of this place, right? Mike Solana saying the EU is attempting to coerce America's most important entrepreneur into censoring a former American president and current presidential candidate. It's more than time to rethink this entire relationship. And you know, people go on about that special relationship between America and England. What a crock of shit. There's no special relationship with that shithole. Fuck them. Let them fucking burn. Let them burn. Who gives a shit about this part of the world? It's a goddamn fucking shithole, okay? We don't want anything to do with Europe. No more Europe. Stay over there and rot with your fucking university degrees and Thierry Breton. I'll come around and eat your cheese while you're still making it. I'll come around and eat your cold cuts while you're still making it. Nothing else is good there, so I'm not. That's all I'm coming for. Is your, well, I should say your bakeries are awesome. But there's nothing else happening. It's the food, and that's it. Okay, I'll come. I'll eat your food, but that can't last much longer. I mean, who's going to make it? You're useless. You have no skills, no talent, no ability. It's a garbage place. Garbage. Now, I love visiting, but I would never live there. It's a dump, right? And indeed, I think we should take as many immigrants from that part of the world as we can, because that part of the world is done. It's done, right? Maybe they can turn it around. Maybe. I doubt it, but it's possible. Their only chance is Bitcoin, but they're so far behind on Bitcoin that I don't think that'll work. Maybe we'll see. They have good food. Yeah, that's all they have. Food. They got the food. We love the food. That's it. That's all we got. So B-Man saying, dude, no. Yeah, it's not good. So here we go. EU, that's what we got left there. Michael Schellenberger talking about Thierry Breton. Take a good look at this man. His intent is to censor the entire internet, including in the United States. He hates our freedom because it exposes his lies. He treats 1984 as a guidebook. He is a totalitarian menace, and we must do everything in our power to stop him, right? So it's going to happen. And of course, everyone knows the best part of what happened yesterday in the reactions, right? When Elon finally gave the Tropic Thunder one, right? I mean, the fake news just doesn't appreciate how funny some of these characters are. The fiat apocalypse is one of the funniest things you're ever going to see in the history of humanity. There's nothing funnier before or after than the fiat apocalypse. It's one of the most hilarious historic instances humans will ever live through. And this might be one of the highest examples that we'll ever have of the hilarity of this time. So when Thierry Breton did that, Elon Musk actually replied to him with this Tropic Thunder meme, which is take a big step back and literally fuck your own face. Again, it's just a little sign, but I'm telling you, when Tom Cruise joins the movement, okay, when Tom Cruise says, the pharmaceutical industry tried to murder me like they did with Trump. They tried to turn me into Donald Trump 20 years ago, and he comes for some revenge. It's gonna be a bit of an Avengers thing here, right? And I'm telling you, Tom Cruise is coming. He's coming to the party, okay? And it's going to be hilarious. Tom Cruise, I mean, he's as insane as any of these people. He's as insane as Elon Musk and Donald Trump. I mean, he's out of his mind. But I bet you he's got some principles, and I bet you he's gonna take a chance here. And he'd be the greatest space drop hoax in the history of the world. Imagine Tom Cruise with Thierry Breton going up in the rocket. And you got Tom Cruise talking to Thierry. Hey, Thierry, you ever seen Mission Impossible? I jumped out of a spaceship before. Is your first time jumping out of a spaceship, Thierry? How's it going? You think it's going to go well for you? Now, I had an advantage when I dropped out of a spaceship because I had a parachute. Now, it's not going to be as easy without a parachute, but you're going to have a great time. Just enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride, Thierry. Right? Enjoy it. It's going to be great. Right? It's going to be one of the greatest things you've ever had. And it's going to be this letter. I think in a Nuremberg type world, you can use that letter and you can prove the complicit nature of what was going on between the media and government organizations. And you could absolutely create a predicate to drop this motherfucker from space. Okay. And he's got to be on the list. He's got to be up there with Fauci and all the rest. And I think he might even be in the first trip. I think he might even be sitting there because I mean, we might as well. Sometimes I wonder, do we throw one at a time from space or do we take 2 or 3 up at a time? I say it's probably best to separate because you want to make sure the ratings are so high. But I worry that after, like the moon landing, you know how the moon landing 1 had all kinds of viewers and then the moon landing 4 didn't quite have as many, right? We don't want that, right? We don't want the ratings to go down. We want to keep the ratings high. So maybe, right? Maybe the first one is just 1 and then we try like 10 the next time and we just see what's going on, right? So we just see what's happening. But anyway, I can just picture Tom Cruise trying to have a friendly conversation with Thierry Breton as he's shitting and pissing himself because he's about to fall from space. And, Thierry's trying to be there, but I transitioned. But I'm a girl. You can't hit a girl. You can't throw a girl off of a space plank. You can't do that. And Tom Cruise, you're not a girl. You're Thierry Breton. It's okay. We're going to drop you. So that's what's going to happen. I really believe it. So, I could be wrong. Maybe Thierry just goes off and lives on a bug commune, eating bugs cooked in canola oil because that's all he can afford. Whatever it is, it's going to be funny. I plan on looking into Thierry Breton, how he's doing in the future. I really want to know. He's just awesome. So now we had some more fun things yesterday. I'd say the most interesting part of the interview, the most interesting part for me anyway, I missed like the last, 45 minutes. I'm sick. I couldn't stay awake. I just passed out. I was passing out, watching it. So, and I didn't have a chance this morning to get more, but from what I heard, The most interesting stuff was about when Elon Musk tried to push him into the cutting the government size conversation. So doing a melee thing. So the minute Elon Musk started talking about that, right, we got to cut the size of government. And Trump himself said, well, that guy Milei is doing great. And they went into this whole thing, right? So when Elon Musk and Trump were talking about that, Elon tried to get on this committee saying, I could probably do this. And Trump said, you'd be great there. Another one who'd be great there, of course, and this is the one that I've predicted will be there, is Vivek Ramaswamy. I think that should be his job. I think Vivek should be the motosierra man, the chainsaw man. And he should be the one wielding the chainsaw for Trump. I think that's a great job for him. More important than vice president, by the way, because he's going to have more resistance. The vice president is sort of there as a backup to the president. So this is the only solace I have in... I like, what's his name, Vance. I don't have a Vance problem. I just really liked Vivek, right? So I love Vivek. I think Vivek is the top politician of our generation. I think he is a unique talent, and I think he has a great future. And I think he's the natural heir apparent to Trump and MAGA. And the best possible job he can get in the administration will be the motosierra man. He'll be the man that cuts the size of government. So they started talking about this. And you also had Vivek yesterday on Squawk Box, a show that I used to go on, talking to Andrew Ross Sorkin. Who is as fucking stupid and complicit in these lies as you're ever going to find anyone. He's a scumbag, like a real stupid scumbag. I'm not sure if he's dumb or evil. He's in that weird category. I can't tell. His talking points on Bitcoin remain as stupid as they were from day one, right? He's just an idiot, right? Again, sorry, I don't know. I suspect he's not an idiot and he's lying. So, but again, it's the whole, democracy, I like to call it, you're dumb or crazy, right? And by crazy, I mean brazen lies like this to actually threaten the entire Western civilization because you want to perpetuate the political power of the Democrat Party. So when he's out there, you don't know if he's dumb or crazy, right? His version of democracy, dumb or crazy, right? Dumb or crazy. That's Andrew Ross Sorkin. He's either dumb or he's crazy. We don't know. Nobody knows. But he's trying to have a conversation with Vivek yesterday, right? And he's all confused. It's like when he's talking about Bitcoin, he's like, so, and it's 10 years later. And he's like, so you're saying the supply is fixed? But what if someone has the secret key and mints more Bitcoin, right? That's the kind of shit he comes up with. So he's there trying to keep up with Vivek yesterday, right? And Vivek says that the administrative state, and he singles out Kamala Harris as part of it. And he does a great job here. He says, she's just another cog in the wheel. We're not running against an individual candidate. We are running against that system, right? He comes in and says, the people we elect to run the government are no longer the ones who actually run the government. If we fix that, we revive our economy and restore our republic at the same time. That's what draining the swamp is all about, right? So indeed, we haven't had civilian control of the military since they killed Kennedy. We haven't had anything like that, right? We don't live in any of the kind of society that we say we do, right? It's not even close. So now they talked about this, like, what do we do with government? What does it look like? How do we drain the swamp? What's motosierra? Blah, 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 blah. Now, they also talked about inflation, and Beauty On has a pretty interesting take on it. He says, a lot of people just don't understand where inflation comes from. This is Elon Musk's thing. And he says, Elon says, inflation comes from government overspending because the checks never bounce when it's written by the government. So if the government spends more than it brings in, that increases the money supply. And if the money supply increases faster than the rate of goods and services, that's inflation. That's what Elon Musk said in the thing yesterday. Beauty On adds, Elon, by saying this in last night's epic interview, exposes his profound economic illiteracy. Inflation, by definition, does not come from government overspending. Inflation is an increase in the supply of money. That is the true and only correct definition of inflation. It isn't surprising that Elon doesn't know this. He used to be a Democrat. The government has a monopoly on the form and supply of the money. Remember what he said, form. That's an important point. Form, right? And can compel the use of bad money through legal tender laws that force people to accept bad money, the US dollar. Out of the billion people who listened and were paying attention, all of them had been lied to about the nature of inflation. And of course, a correct understanding, I wouldn't say lied to. I don't think it's lied. I think what he's saying in here is that Elon wasn't precise enough, right? Or even less than precise, he wasn't accurate, right? So precise and accurate are not the same idea. Precise means you have it exact. Accurate means you're sort of directionally correct. What he's, I think, saying here is he's not even directionally correct, which I'll agree with Beauty on that, right? And of course, a correct understanding of what inflation is and where it actually comes from was one of the reasons why Bitcoin was created. Ron Paul and the Austrian School of Economics have been talking about this for decades. And the long predicted collapse of the dollar is surely very close now, having been wrecked by Barack Hussein Obama and several Fed chairmen who believed the lies of the molester and monster Keynes. It also explains why Elon thinks money is some sort of joke and why he promotes Dogecoin. He is profoundly ignorant about inflation, the nature of money, and the US dollar. Anyway, I don't have to read the rest of it. He says some interesting things here, but what's important, right? Thankfully, there are a growing number of people who, despite not knowing these facts, are attracted to Bitcoin for reasons of utility. And as Bitcoin enters into the global hegemony, the Austrian effect will begin to take hold. Then Elon and his class can misattribute the prosperity ushered in by sound money on the weather, society, and other fantastic ex parte explanations. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think this is what we're going to see. And that's the reason why I made the Bitcoin logo cold today. It's the reason why our title is Bitcoin is so cool, it can solve global warming and inflation. So everything you just heard about what Beauty On said is sort of accurate, but I'm gonna add something. When he said the form of money, right? When he said the form of money, that's important because here's the only Canadian worth a damn, Marshall McLuhan, okay? Now, Canadians are, as I've said, the stupidest people in the world, except for their amazing speciality, which is media literacy. Because we're close to the United States, but we're not American, we have this really unique distance but proximity and distance from the American media, whatever it is, like just the craziness of it, right? So Canadians have this really interesting ability to know a lot about America and also not be swept up in the gravitational forces of America. It's why when we go to Europe, for example, and we hear them explain America, we think they're absolutely mentally ill and retarded because they have sort of a caricature version of America, and Canadians can have that, but not, it's not as prevalent or as bad. So Canadians have a really amazing history of understanding media, and Marshall McLuhan is probably the most brilliant Canadian describing the effects of media and what it's all about from a historic point of view as well. And he says here, the printed word with its specialist intensity burst the bonds of medieval corporate guilds and monasteries, creating extreme individualist patterns of enterprise and monopoly. So he said right away, and everything about Marshall McLuhan is hot and cold media. Right? So everything can be divided into hot and cold media. It's the main point of what he's talking about all the time. So here he explains a cool medium like hieroglyphic or ideogrammic written characters has very different effects from the hot and explosive medium of the phonetic alphabet. So what he's saying here is that, Chinese characters or ancient Egyptian characters don't promote the kind of literacy and the kind of speed at which language can disseminate and go viral, right? So the virality of it has a lot to do with the hot and the cold part. The alphabet, when pushed to a high degree of abstract visual intensity, became typography. The printed word, with its specialist intensity, burst the bonds of medieval corporate guilds and monasteries, creating extreme individualist patterns of enterprise and monopoly. But the typical reversal occurred when extremes of monopoly brought back the corporation and its impersonal empire over many lives. The hotting up of the medium of writing to repeatable print intensity led to nationalism and the religious wars of the 16th century. The heavy and unwieldy media, such as stone, as time binders, used for writing, they are very cool indeed and serve to unify the ages, whereas paper is a hot medium that serves to unify spaces horizontally, both in political and entertainment empires. So there you go. What this is exactly what's going on with Bitcoin. So when Beauty On said the form of the money, it's important, right? But it's everything. The form of cryptographic keys as money is actually part of a huge process that's been going on since World War II, I argue. And that's our whiteboard for the day, which is the process of hyper-Bitcoinization. Now that paper money is not a thing, now that government money is being exposed for what it is, now that the hot medium of complicit media and political integration, because the money comes out of words declared by the government, it's what we've been talking about forever here, right? That fiat money necessitates the government and the media to be complicit together, to integrate their ideas, because the fiat system has to propagate. The node propagation of the fiat system is the captured fake news. If government words are money, how those words are spread in the world is the most important thing. And because, just like Marshall McLuhan said here, typing, movies, news, all hot media, all were very good at brainwashing people, and was a natural repercussion of what was going on. Exactly what he said when he talked about the hotting up of the medium of writing to repeatable print intensity led to nationalism and the religious wars of the 16th century, right? So, but then he says that heavy media, such as stone and as time binders, but that's Bitcoin. That's cryptographic keys as well, right? These things are very cool media. And the Bitcoin blockchain is one of the coolest forms of media you're ever going to find. And the trajectory we're on here, when he talked about the corporate integration, right? Cryptographic keys are already breaking that. And it's breaking it in a very interesting way. And you can kind of understand the trickle-down effect of cryptographic keys going into the hands of the individual again. And it's the same trajectory that we were talking about print media at the beginning, that it brings extreme individualist patterns, right? And this is what happens. So at the time of World War II, cryptographic keys were only used for war purposes. Cryptography was entirely a war subject, right? Only state actors built cryptographic tools. I think there was like one invention from a private cryptographer for 500 years or something. Someone in Italy in like the 1500s was the last private innovation in cryptography we ever had. And by the way, most cryptography, if you get into cryptography, you don't invent cryptographic primitives and stuff like that. You discover them. It's very much a discovery thing. So once you discover these things, so it's because it's all mathematical, it was always there. You find it, you uncover it. They know that. They don't say, I invented public key cryptography. No. They discovered it, right? So what happens is there is no, in fact, the government even makes cryptography illegal after World War II because they saw the power of Turing and the Nazi Enigma machine and the code breakers and what they did. So after World War II, cryptographic keys were classified as military armament. You weren't allowed to study it. You weren't allowed, there was no major in college. If you went to college for cryptography, you didn't go to it. There was no such thing. There were no textbooks. You didn't study it, right? So this was just not a thing. And if you did it at all, you got paid off to stop or to join the national security apparatus. So cryptographic commercial exploitation, invention, all of which became illegal for decades. And that changed in the 1970s when the public key cryptography was discovered by Martin Hellman and Whitfield Diffie. And they were just private guys, civilians, came up with the idea. They knew the internet was coming. They had an idea that we would need a form of cryptographic key that could operate over networked internet. And they discovered public key cryptography. Now, what ends up happening is public key cryptography goes from being just a military tool. And now in the 1980s, when public key cryptography starts, they realize that you're too stupid, or you're too dumb. You are, right? And all of us are too stupid to run cryptographic keys ourselves. So they develop public key infrastructure, which is the tool that corporations used. Not this wasn't a conspiracy, right? They really did think we were too dumb to run cryptographic keys. And the finality of losing your password was too much. So they had to create something that could be human readable and could take out the complexity and finality of cryptographic key, the loss, finding your keys and all that stuff, right? So what ended up happening was they developed public key cryptography, but it did the same thing. It ended up consolidating corporate power. This ended up helping the corporation. This ended up helping companies because in the end, that's who was running your cryptographic keys for you. You traded all your personal information to these companies and they ran the cryptographic keys for you because you're too stupid. Now that's what's going on your address bar on your computer all the time, right? When you see the SSL layer, the little lock that comes in on your web browser when you type in your addresses, that thing is actually showing you that now you're entering a page that is using public key cryptography, public key infrastructure, PKI it's called. And so what happens there is just very simple. You trade all your personal information and they run the keys for you, right? You authenticate with your own personal stuff. They run the key for you. Now, what's happening with Bitcoin, and this is something I've argued from the very beginning, when we talk about the corporate guilds, the corporate structure, the corporate consolidation that happened from print words, from media, from the government issuing money that is their declarations, and what happens with media when all those two things join, and you have the hot media, and then you have the corporate consolidation of power, right? What Bitcoin is offering is cryptographic keys in individuals' hands. And what ends up happening when that goes down is the ability for, or the power, almost like magic, right? When you hold the cryptographic key in your hand, that is Bitcoin, you have magic that we haven't seen on Earth placed in the hands of an individual in maybe ever, right? So because you now have this tool, because the full power and magic of cryptography is in your individual hands, it actually breaks the entire hot nature of the capture of cryptographic keys by the corporate bodies, the same bodies that were strong enough because of hot media and what was going on with print and the media becoming bought by the government. What happened with all of that is have you ever heard of the Coase theorem? That's what we're about to live through, right? The Coase theorem suggests, and this is the transition from government money and hot money and all that stuff, right? And them running the cryptographic keys for you. What ends up happening with that is a pretty, I mean, it can change everything, right? The Coase theorem is this. So Ronald Coase won the Nobel Prize in the 90s or something for economics, but he is not an economist. He was a lawyer like me. And he never even wrote a book about this stuff. He never even did anything. But he worked at the Chicago School. He worked with Milton Friedman. He was part of that world. And from a lawyer's point of view, what he proved was this thing called the theory of the firm, or Coase theorem, which is that in pure law, right, in pure law, if you go to a judge, use the example of a noise complaint, right? So you come in, you and your neighbor have a disagreement. They've been making too much noise and you want them to stop. You go before a judge. The judge says, okay, you who are complaining about the noise, you can't complain before 10 p.m. And you making the noise, you can't make noise after 10 p.m. So he just comes down the middle, right? It's a fair thing, right? It's easy to imagine. Now, what ends up happening in the normal system, and this is what Coase believes, is that you try to internalize transactions. And what you end up doing is creating a corporate body to manage all of the negotiations that would go on. So you end up bringing in your own in-house lawyer, you bring in your own in-house this, and your own in-house strategist, and your own this and this. So the corporate body grows. Now, what ends up happening is part of the corporate body wants advantages from manipulating the political system. So in the end, the corporate body becomes, by its very nature, without any premeditated direction, it's a natural repercussion of what happens to the corporate size growing, that it will actually start to try to influence the system to get an advantage. So in the corporate world, right, go back to the noise complaint, if one of those people is part of a corporation and has all these advantages, they'll go before the judge and all of the laws will already be changed. Everything, all the groundwork will be done. And the judge will have to deal with the reality of the corporate influence and how that will take the judge. Now, noise complaint isn't an example that would probably fall into corporate interest, but I use it as an example to explain what we're seeing. And this is what goes on everywhere else, this complicit action. So when you start to think about the trickle down and what Bitcoin offers, it actually is a deadly weapon to the ability of corporations to influence the state. It actually breaks that bond and brings us back into exactly what Marshall McLuhan was saying here, right? The heavy and unwieldy media, such as stone, are time binders, right? In the same way that the rhinestones are time binders, the Bitcoin blockchain is cold media and a time binder, right? That's why we think of it as a time chain. And it's used for writing, and it is or money, and it is a very cool media indeed. And it serves to unify the ages, right? Whereas paper is a hot medium that serves to unify spaces horizontally. So go back to the inflation question. Indeed, they can make more. And when Beauty On says it's not money printing, it's not government debt, it's money printing or the increase in supply. To me, it's splitting hairs. It's hot media, it's paper money. The form of the money itself can be so easily reproduced. As if the government's talking, they're producing money. Basically, if the government's talking, they're producing more money because the money is their talk, it's their speech. So, which is the hottest medium you can get. So when you think of a cool medium and binding over the ages and what it can mean to the very structure of a company, you're not going to see huge companies in the future, right? What Elon has done to X is just a taste of what's coming. You can already see the size of your typical company shrinking. You're going to see the size of all this stuff change, right? So that's what we got for today, everyone. Cryptography is pattern and mathematics embeds natural occurring systems and intelligent design. Indeed. All right, now, nice shirt. Next auction soon. Thanks, Tommy. Everyone, go check out the Satoshi House auctions. I love these shirts. It's great cotton, everything. And it's these guys who made the beautiful Moscow Time logo. We're very happy with it. We're very happy. We love it. Everyone wants to keep their secrets and assets hidden private. Bitcoin blockchain promotes healthy ability that perform exceptional services. Absolutely. Cypherpunks then realize that the computers and cryptography governments are not a monolithic, but a multitudinous enemy. You are correct. All right. Quick bit. Apologies. I was there Thursday. Well, it's that time of the morning, Crypto Truth says. The light of the day is peeking on the horizon, and I have to help people navigate the autocracy. Have a great day, Nolan and gang. This is the way. Thank you, my man. Thank you, my man. Nolan, veterans. Nolan for BTC ambassador. We love it. Sorkin is the clown of clowns. To call him no longer motivator. Keep my mouth shut due to commerce constraints. Yeah. Space drop lever puller. It would be a good job. Cooking with canola oil. Yeah, you gotta. Elon has an interesting sense of humor. I think he hides it in public as he has a good wit. My family used to live down the street when he lived in Menlo Park. Used to talk with him at Tesla's shop. Wow, in Menlo Park. Amazing. I read a book called The Past Lives. Yeah. Yeah, that's a little bit, well, trade in common would be enough. I'm so glad to be going through the fiat apocalypse with you lot. Thank you, Bitcoin Deb. We love that. Me too. Nice old buildings. Yes. We love the nice old buildings. Europe's still trying to live their glory days. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Yeah, isn't the begging for money, isn't the Guardian begging for money hilarious? You guys have such a shitty platform and we need money. She's my favorite, though. She is my favorite. That's my favorite person of the day. Elon, what did Elon say? Look at her face. Wait till she sees what's next. We love it. All right, team. That's all I got for today. Peace. Have a great day, everyone.